the leader of the pack, bringing legacy to you. Legacy, it's true. Stand up, gear up, join the fight. We're as fierce as we can be. With grit and might, we claim the night. We're the Legacy. Legacy Club. Legacy Club. Strong and unbreakable. Warriors with fire inside. In our hearts, we're invincible. Legacy Club.
Okie dokie. Hello, one and all, and everyone. Welcome back to the same old thing that's kind of new. You know me, I like to change it up. I like to change it up to the detriment of myself. I don't know. Yeah, you know me, it's just always got to be flip-floppy in something new, kind of, to a degree. If you notice the title, and if you notice the title on the podcast feed and the YouTube feeds and all that, yet another title or name update. Now, this is referred to as just the Leal Legacy. I'm still referring to those of you listening and interacting and consuming this as the Legacy Club. That's still the same. But the show itself, I just wanted to simplify everything and streamline all of it. And just, it makes sense in my head. All you need to know and all you need to understand is that henceforth, this is the Legacy, the Leal Legacy. See, I can't even remember. I can't even keep up with it. And then the web store, Legacy Club Clothing, is now just Legacy by Leal. You know what it was? Honestly what it was is I Googled Legacy Club and I came nowhere near the top, at all. Not even a little bit. There's just so many things called Legacy Club, from bars and golf courses and just so many things that I'm unwilling to compete with. But if you do Leal Legacy, I'm all there is. So from a branding standpoint, it just makes sense. Just call everything Leal Legacy. And then the clothes, most of the designs, just most of the most basic designs, just say Legacy with the fists. And it just makes more sense for it to be called Legacy. But I can't just call it Legacy. There's other two. Again, the word Legacy is just far too widespread, utilized for me personally to stand out. So if I do Legacy by Leal, well, guess what? All the the key words in there to loop it back to Leal Legacy, they're there. So it all just cohesively makes more sense. I did all that while running through my son Rhodes. He just either he loves spending time with me one-on-one, and the only time he can really do that is after everyone else has gone to bed or retreated to their rooms to play video games or do whatever, or he just hates going to sleep. One of the two, but he loves to stay up incredibly late, keeping me up incredibly late. And the most optimal time to record is after everyone in the house is asleep. Well, when it's 1 o'clock in the morning, as it is now, makes it challenging because I do get tired, believe it or not. So we ran into currently in a stint of him refusing to go to sleep at a reasonable hour. Like, it's not without effort. It's not without trying to lay him down. And we try to lay him down in bed and he'll just get up and start running around. It's not like, what else do you do? It's either you let him do that and wake up Maverick, or you keep him downstairs and just wait for him to tucker himself out. So, I don't know, man. I don't know. Parent life is unique. And every kid is unique. So, no two parental experiences are going to be the same. However, my wife and I decided that in order for this to work, there needs to be times during the day where I just, have to bite the bullet and record in a noisy house, possibly. But, it is what it is. Hence, this very basic background and setup that we're currently running with. I'm just doing it, man. I'm just doing it. I'm just not even going to care to make it look very pretty at the moment. Is what it is. It just is what it is. And like I said, then something's better than nothing. Oh, and look at this. See the mic? Conventionally, there'd be a foamy piece on top to make it way less breathy and poppy and, just the cushion, audio cushioning. Well, speaking of my children, I don't know who it was specifically, but it was one of the two little demons crawled up on my desk and pulled the covering off and ripped it to pieces. I do have an idea of which one it was, Maverick. But given that I didn't witness it happen directly, there's truly no telling. So, I don't know, man. I simply just do not know. But I feel like I gotta fight through it. What things are gonna be sacrificed, like visual aesthetic quality, because visually it's still the same camera and whatnot, and the audio is still crisp and clean, maybe a little more breathy, but I got another microphone that I'll use at other times. It's just this episode is going to sound like this, so hopefully it's not awful for you, but just tis what it is. Yeah. So that's that. So with all that being said, welcome back to the Leal Legacy. And I hope you do visit our store, which actually is very much more of like an easy process and thing to remember. You just go to leallegacy.com for everything. And now the store is shop.leallegacy.com. Instead of being a whole nother thing like Legacy Club clothing. No, everything's Leal Legacy. You just got to remember one thing. One place to go, one place to visit. It's all there for you. And I hope you do, because that is how we keep this rickety little ship afloat. It is 1 a.m. in the morning. Rhodes did go to bed just a little bit ago, but I was still in it's Saturday. It is Saturday, so it's fight night. UFC 314 just came to an end not long ago. And it was a night of highs and lows. It was all exciting. It was all fairly good. It was all really good, actually, with the exception of Patricio, Pitbull, and Yair Rodriguez. That was just I don't know, man. I don't know. It was proof. It was proof to the idea that levels of talent and competition are just very, it's a very high leap, let's say, to go from any other mixed martial arts promotion to the UFC. The UFC is just where the best of the world all live, and this is what it is. So you may be a big name in another promotion, you may be a dominant presence in another promotion, but that jump to the UFC is something else, and we got to see that in full effect twice tonight. First with the Yair Rodriguez versus Patricio Pitbull. Patricio Pitbull is, he was like the king of Bellator and just a dominant champion over there. Tonight was his debut fight in the UFC, and he didn't do anything. He really seemed, dare I say, like an amateur up against Yair Rodriguez, who is really at the tippy top of the ranks in the featherweight division, and it was barely a show. And tragically, the other big name that crossed over from the same promotion, Bellator, which I don't believe exists anymore, another name from Bellator that came over to the UFC is one Michael Chandler. And Michael Chandler is deeply associated with Nashville MMA, where I happen to train Jiu-Jitsu. Sometimes I find myself in a striking class, but not always. And happen to be an assistant kids coach there as well for Jiu-Jitsu and fitness and boxing for a time. But anyway, I'm a proud member of Nashville MMA, so I unquestionably will support Michael Chandler in whatever combat sports endeavor he finds himself in. But he has been less than successful in his last, his last win was against Tony Ferguson. And he lost to Charles Oliveira twice. He lost to Dustin Poirier. He lost to Justin Gaethje. And now tonight he lost to Paddy Pimblett. Which, all of these guys, all of these names they're no chumps. You know what I mean? They're all at the very top of the division. But, except for Paddy Pimblett. Paddy Pimblett would be the exception. He is not at the top of the division. He was ranked 13. Michael Chandler was ranked number 7. So this was really Paddy the Baddy's shot at being ranked within the top of the lightweight division of the UFC. And undoubtedly, he is, without question, going to be ranked at the very least, he's got to be ranked number 7 because he just beat Chandler, who was ranked number 7. So he leaped from 13 to ideally number 7. And Chandler being 7, losing to 13, that one hurts. And I imagine that's going to drop him. Maybe he'll still be ranked in the top 10. Maybe he'll go down 3 spots. He'll definitely be within the top 15, but we are not going to see Michael Chandler on pay-per-view cards anymore. And that's just reality. You know what I mean? I don't know him personally. I haven't met him, But like I said, he's intertwined in the gym that I'm a part of. So just out of respect, you back your own, right? But in backing your own, you got to sometimes be honest and be like, hey, maybe that's not where you fit in anymore. And he's like my age too. Like I think he's like 38 or 39 or something like that. That's kind of the tail end of it, when it comes to professional fighting, at least mixed martial arts and MMA. Your late 30s is definitely the tail end of your career. Now there are exceptions. There are some fighters who've crossed over into their 40s who are still active. I wouldn't say there are many who are dominant, with the exception of Alex Pohatan in the light heavyweight division, but he's an anomaly, and he just lost his last fight that he didn't really seem to have shown up for either. I don't know. I don't know what the story was there. There's some talks of maybe he fought injured, so I don't know. He's one of my favorite fighters. So I'm very forgiving when my favorite fighters happen to lose. And speaking of another one of my favorite fighters who they fought tonight, Alexander Volkanovski. Oh boy, Alexander Volkanovski is the, once again, champion of the featherweight division of the UFC. And boy, oh boy, was that a roller coaster of emotion. It wasn't really a roller coaster of emotion. It was just highly stressful. He fought a young killer named Diego Lopes. So Alexander Volkanovski was a very dominant champion in his first title reign. He, at one point, decided to take a shot at being a double champ and went up a division to fight the champion of 155, who, of course, is Islam Makhachev. Was unsuccessful in his first attempt, and then on short notice, he gave it another go. Islam had an opponent that I think dropped out for whatever reason, so Volkanovski jumped up in 2 weeks' notice to try again. He did really well in his first fight against Islam Makhachev. It went to decision, so he survived all 5 rounds, gave a really good performance. I don't know if it was like controversial that he didn't win. I think it was pretty understandable, understandably so. He didn't do better than Islam, but he did well enough to have the conversation of, if they did it again, if they ran it back, could he potentially pull out the win in the rematch? Well, maybe he could have. I still argue that he possibly there was a probability where it was very realistic that he could have beat Islam Makhachev, but the issue was he jumped in 2 weeks' notice. So when you're fighting a fighter that is the caliber of Islam Makhachev, you don't do that in 2 weeks' notice. You put forth, you go through a full training camp and just very, very much prepare for what you're about to face. And I don't know, I guess he had the thought process of he had done it once, did well, had an understanding and an idea of what he was walking into, but without the conditioning of a full training camp, it was just no. It just was not. It was not a realistic endeavor. So he lost both his attempts at being a double champ. In the second fight, he got knocked out cold. And that I think did something to him, and understandably so. Like, you get knocked out, that's going to rattle you in ways that you may not be aware of in the moment. So after that knockout, his next fight, he went back down to 145 featherweight to defend his belt against a fighter named Ilia Topuria. Or Topuria? Ilia Topuria? Yeah, not Topuria. Topuria. Ilia Topuria, who, in his own right, is just a phenomenal fighter. And coming off that knockout, I don't know if Volkanovski was, I don't know if he was fully recovered mentally, emotionally, maybe physically he was, but definitely there was still some sort of, he was still rattled to a degree. And in his fight against Topuria, he got knocked out again. So he had a kind of a devastating stint in his professional fighting career. In that time that he wasn't fighting, Ilia Topuria decided that he didn't want to make the weight cut down to 145 anymore, and decided that he had beaten all the people he needed to beat in the division, and decided, okay, I'm going to go up to 155, so I'm going to vacate the belt at 145, and my next fight will be at the next weight class up. And that left the 145 belt vacant. And Alexander Volkanovski was, rightfully so chosen to be one of the fighters to claim, or in his case, reclaim the 145 title against one of the, just most vicious up-and-comers in that division, Diego Lopes, who was just running through everybody he faced. And tonight was the night. Tonight was the night where they squared off and, faced off to determine who was going to be the champion of the division. And boy, oh boy, Alexander Volkanovski came to prove a point. And he did prove a point. He came in aggressive. He came in violent. He came in wanting his title back. He wants to be the king at 145 again. But Diego Lopes wanted it just as badly. And it was not a walk in the park. I would argue that Volkanovski, I wouldn't call it a dominant win. I'd call it a clear win. Like there wasn't a point where I ever felt like, okay, this is up in the air. Like the way I had the fight scored, I think I gave rounds 1, 2, and 3 to Volkanovski, and then Lopes, he took round 4 in my book, and then round 5 was Volkanovski again. So by my account, if the fight were to go to decision, rounds 1 through 3 were already won. So as long as he was able to avoid being knocked out or submitted, I was pretty confident that Volkanovski was going to win. But with Diego Lopes, you don't know. Like you don't know. He's capable of just being incredibly impressive. And he was. He definitely put up a very impressive fight. But I'm going to say luckily, because I'm a Volkanovski fan. Luckily, Volk was able to gut it out, pull it out, and reclaim his title at 145. So exciting. It's exciting, and I'm very curious to see what comes next, because I don't know who in the division really at this point Volk hasn't beat. So it's going to be rematches for him for the most part. But I'm just happy he's back at the top. And there we have it. There we have it. That was a little recap of the fights tonight. That wasn't every fight. Those were the two fights that really meant the most to me. Dominic Reyes for light heavyweight, he had a very, very surprisingly dominant performance. Patricio Pitbull and Yair Rodriguez, just Yair beating up Pitbull. Bryce Mitchell, oh, there we go. Bryce Mitchell and Jean Silva. That was another disappointing outcome. I'm a Bryce Mitchell fan. I'm a Bryce Mitchell fight fan, and there's been some controversy as of late with good old Bryce Mitchell. He said some questionable things on his podcast, and it rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, reasonably so. I don't know, man. I just, it's whatever. He's a fighter. He gets hit in the head a lot. He's going to say some crazy things. I didn't take it in a way of where I'm not going to watch his fights anymore. I'm not going to root for him anymore, because I don't know. There's a lot of people that I disagree with, that I'm just not, I don't know. I'm just not, it's separate. His personal life and personal opinions and personal matters have no bearing on my opinion of him as a fighter. So, I was hoping he would win tonight. I was kind of hoping he would win just because after the devastating reaction to the wild things he said, it was just, he needed a win. He needed a win. He just needed a win. And that did not turn out to be the case. And it was not even just like, it wasn't just not the case. He got dominated. And he got dominated by somebody who is definitely going to be a problem for the division. And wow, that was a lot of featherweight fights tonight. Now that I think about it, it was a featherweight heavy night. It was Bryce Mitchell and Jean Silva. Then we had Yair Rodriguez and Patricio Pitbull. And then we had Volkanovski and Diego Lopes. Wow. I didn't notice that until right now. But yeah, Bryce got submitted. I think it was in the third round, if I'm remembering it correctly. But that doesn't bode well for his professional and personal life. I don't know if it's going to affect it. It has to affect his personal life. As a fighter, when you lose, it definitely affects you personally, but definitely his professional life was affected by his personal opinions. So he's just in a world of hurt right now. And it's a bummer because I like Bryce Mitchell. But yeah, that was really it. That was really it. So I'm excited to see where things go. Paddy Pimblett being just the prospect of prospects now. Now, not even a prospect anymore. He's definitely a contender. I'd say he's a title contender without question. He just needs one more win. one more win, and he gets a title shot, I would say. I have zero say, really, but just logically as a fight fan, it just makes the most sense that he would get a title fight after another win, because he went from 13 to prospectively 7, and if he's ranked 7, fights somebody within the top 3, beats somebody in the top 3, there's no reason why he shouldn't get a title fight. I immediately said I'd like to see him fight Justin Gaethje, but it seemed to have a positive response for the most part on X, formerly Twitter. But some people made some good points. Justin Gaethje's submission defense is not the best, so there is a possibility that Paddy Pimblett could kind of run through him on the ground, potentially. But I don't find that to be an argument to not see the fight. I mean, if Paddy's the better fighter, then he's just the better fighter. Just because Justin Gaethje has a potential weakness with his ground game doesn't mean he gets to avoid fighting Paddy. The other two possibilities, if we're talking the top 3, would be Arman Tsarukyan and Charles Oliveira, who are both very strong ground players. Their grappling is top notch, and that would present a bit of a challenge for Paddy Pimblett, because Paddy is also more dominant on the ground than he is on the feet. He actually submitted Michael Chandler tonight, so that just supports that argument and idea. I guess his biggest test I would argue would be Charles Oliveira, who's ranked number 2 right now, I believe. If he can get through Charles Oliveira, there's no question he should get a title shot. But then he could also fight Arman Tsarukyan. But then, you're not going to make Arman fight number 7 if he's ranked number 1. That's just a very unconventional thing to do. It's really an unconventional thing to do to make number 2 fight number 7. But number 3 fighting number 7 is, it's not a whoa, situation. And with the dominant performance that Paddy Pimblett had tonight, him fighting as number 7, the number 3 ranked guy, give him that. Give him the reward for being as dominant as he was tonight. So I still would like to see him fight Justin Gaethje. It makes the most sense to me. There is an argument to put him up against Charles Oliveira, but again, Charles Oliveira sitting at number 2 fighting number 7. It just feels a little more weird than number 3 fighting number 7. You know what I mean? They're both decently sized gaps in the rankings, but again, you give a performance like you did tonight, you can leapfrog 4 rank spots and fight that guy, I think, personally. But that's just me. What do I know? I don't know anything. Yeah, man. I wish I had more to talk about, maybe, than just UFC, but that's just what's on my mind right now, is what it is. I thought it was really cool. I thought it was really neat. I just think it's really cool. One of my favorite things to see on these pay-per-view fight nights is when President Trump walks into the arena. That's one of my favorite things to see now. I'm not a diehard, Trump guy. I'm a fan. I'm a supporter. But it's just fun to see. It's fun to watch the entire crowd erupt over the president being there. There's no other president. No other president has gone to a cage fight. It's neat. It's very, very cool. And just watching him walk in and the crowd's reaction and just him shaking people's hands. And then whenever a fighter wins, they jump out of the cage or they run up to the side of the cage and they talk to him. And it's just it's very fun. It's very fun that the leader of the free world is a fan of cage fighting. Because, I mean, that's just, he's the first. He's the first, and I think it's very fun. You know what and here's a little something else. Here's a little something else that I think people need to go see. Everybody should go see this, because there are still people out there who are just like suffering from that Trump derangement syndrome, where if you don't hate the man, then you're a problem. And I find that to be problematic, because it's just a sign of inferior intelligence. And I'm not saying you have to agree with all his political stances, and I don't agree with all the things he's done, but you know what? He was definitely the best option of the two we were provided during the last election. And there's no argument there. There's no argument there whatsoever. Simply just because playing by the rules. Because his opponent was placed in her position. She wasn't elected by anybody to be her party's nominee. She was just placed there. And that alone is such a breach of how things are done. I'm very confused why so many people didn't have a problem with that. And then you have the people who are just like, oh, but he's a felon and blah, blah, blah. No, he wasn't convicted of anything. And then you want to talk about, yeah, but he still did. But however, all the proof and evidence says otherwise. So I don't know, man. People just want to hate because they're told to, I guess, or their IQ level is just too insignificant for them to think beyond what they're being spoon-fed by whoever. And, that's fine. People are allowed to be dumb. It's America. It's the land of the free. You're free to be a stupid person. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. People are allowed to be dumb. I have to keep reminding myself of that. But here, take this, for instance. Those of you out there, I'm sure, are familiar. Maybe some, maybe all, maybe none. There's definitely not none. But Bill Maher, comedian and show host Bill Maher, he recently on his show, what's his show title? Real Time with Bill Maher. Go dig up a clip of one of his recent episodes where he talks about being invited to the White House for dinner. Now, if you don't know who Bill Maher is, or let's just touch in on a little bit about Bill. He is very much a proudly outspoken Democrat supporter, liberal-minded individual, and what have you. To put it just bluntly, he had a very, very low opinion of Donald Trump. However, he is friends with Kid Rock. Just is. I know that's going to confuse a lot of people because, if you're not paying attention, you would just naturally assume that someone like Bill Maher would never be friends with someone like Kid Rock. And, maybe so. They are seemingly a dynamically different duo. But Kid Rock is friends with both Bill Maher and Donald Trump, and was able to arrange and talk both of them into having dinner with one another at the White House. So Bill Maher accepted the invitation, went to the White House, had dinner with President Trump, and I really, really encourage you, those of you who just seemingly hate Donald Trump for whatever reason, why you were told to hate him, just go listen to Bill Maher, who seemingly maybe you believed to have shared a perspective with. He's very honest. He's very honest about the interaction and his time having dinner with the president. And I think it's very beneficial that he did what he did. He just went over there and talked to him, had a conversation with President Trump. And why don't, if you're one of those folks who are just blindly enraged by anybody saying anything positive about the president or supporting him or voting for him or whatever, why don't you go listen to one of your liberal comrades, Bill Maher, and just digest his take on his experience. It's just a fascinating world we live in, because me personally, after the first assassination attempt on Donald Trump, I came out and said, hey, I'm backing this guy. And the overwhelming hatred I received was incredible. And it's just like, there are so many better things to dislike me for. There's so many more relevant things to dislike me for, I would imagine. But that was the kicker. People I have been friends with since like third grade were decided that was enough. That was the final straw to where they could no longer stomach me. Which, okay, that's fine. But I wouldn't call myself a MAGA person, but at the same time, that just stands for Make America Great Again. So I don't understand why you wouldn't want the country you live in to be a great place to live in. Baffling to me. But hey, I'm sure those who feel like that's a bad concept all have very rational and logical reasons of why they feel that way, that aren't just regurgitations of nonsensical just the nonsense fed to them by, I don't know, whoever. Justin, me. Hey, man. People are allowed to be dumb. I'm not saying that if you don't like Donald Trump, you're a dumb person, but I think the people that just blindly do it and say the things that have been time and time again disproven, and yet they still hold those points as arguments as to why he's a bad man, fascinate me. It truly does fascinate me. But anyhow, we don't have to get too deep into that. I wish everyone well. I mean, that sound convincing. But yeah, it happens to be one of my favorite things to watch Trump walk into the arena, because he always walks in at the start of the main card. I watch from the earliest of prelims. I start watching then. So I'm I don't know, 10 fights deep by the time it gets to showing him walk in. And it's just I don't know. It's a fun and energetic intermission in between the violence. I don't know. Give it a shot. Go listen to Bill Maher. See if you're capable of hearing some rationale from someone you believe you agree with on social and political issues. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's it. I think that's all I got for right now at almost 2 o'clock in the morning. Good Lord. With all that being said, for those of you who I haven't turned off and repelled by simply saying, hey, this guy is not bad man. He's just a dude who, I don't know, seems to be doing an okay job at his job. Better than the last. Go ahead and pay us a visit at leallegacy.com and scope out all the other content and less controversial content we have available for you there, such as our cartoon commentaries, our vlogs, our POV vlog, our... what else we got up there? I don't know. There's other stuff. Most importantly, I'd say go and pay our store a visit at just the store tab at leallegacy.com and pick yourself up something fun, something nice. I'm fighting a sneeze, if you can't tell. That's how we keep all this rolling. Well, that and your loyal viewership across all the platforms, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, all those places. I don't know. LealLegacy.com is really, truly the only thing you need to worry about. You just go there and watch everything. The latest commentary that I did was for Walt Disney's Dumbo, and you can find that on the homepage of LealLegacy.com right now. And then once it's off the homepage, you can go find it in our commentaries section on the site, along with our commentary for Fantasia, Pinocchio, Snow White. Those are the ones I've done so far. And then over 400 classic cartoons are up there and available for you as well. Yeah, social media, it's all Leal Legacy. So give us a follow there across all your favorite social media platforms. Everything now is just Leal Legacy or Legacy by Leal, which I prefer that name now, honestly. Go scope it out. I add things and remove things from the store at will. So if you see something you like, you better grab it because you have no idea how long it's going to stay there for. So grab it while you can. Give us a follow. Give us a like. Ring the little notification ding-dong bell here on the YouTube. Subscribe across all your favorite social media platforms. And, as always, thanks for being a friend and telling a friend. Until next time, see ya.